Yo, what's going on? It's King Steph, and in this video, I'm be talking about my favorite ongoing manga slash anime series that are going on in 2022, still dropping weekly or some of them monthly chapters. So I want to go ahead and get right into it and list off some of my favorites. Go ahead and get the obvious one out the way. Obviously, Jujutsu Kaisen. To me, it's the best manga ongoing right now. For me, I just enjoy it so much every time a new chapter drops. Obviously, we got the videos on this channel. Love the power system. I'm loving a lot of the characters, some of the villains, and even some of the minor characters that have their own cool like personalities and motives. I just get attached to them. And obviously, the story, it just progresses and gets more interesting as we go throughout these arcs. So yeah, obviously, Jujutsu Kaisen is gonna be number one for me. Staying in Shonen Jump though, I gotta go with Sakamoto Days. I think Sakamoto Days is one of the most fun, just overall series I've read in Jump in a while. So I just have fun reading it just constantly. Sometimes I don't even have to put much brain power into it. It's just I can read it and just have a blast. It's got a cool factor to it. I think the character designs are very slept on when it comes to Sakamoto Days, but I honestly can't wait till this comes out in a anime format, because I think when Sakamoto Days gets in anime, it's gonna blow up like crazy. I have a video specifically talking about a lot of Sakamoto Days, so go ahead and check that out if you want my full thoughts and ideas on it. Yeah, Sakamoto, who's more of on the older side of a main character. He's cool. Shin as a deuteragonist is pretty fun. Cool seeing his development. I think he has potential to be one of the better deuteragonists to come out of Jump in recent memory, other than others like Megami and such. The villains are constantly growing to be more of a threat as we get deeper into the series, and once again, the series has a lot of charisma to it. Some of the best fights I've ever seen on a manga. It's so easy to read. It's so different in terms of how he uses backgrounds for fights and scenery. It's an overall great experience. Next is probably my favorite sports series of all time for me, specifically because it got me really into the sports genre of anime, and that is Blue Lock. Blue Lock is an anime coming out. It has one of the most innovative and different concepts in terms of a sports manga. That's a unique way of tackling like simple narratives within the sports genre by kind of going a little bit above and beyond with some of the emotions and some of the way things are portrayed. Like a simple kick or a simple like score with a goal could feel like the greatest thing of all time. It's one of those type of series. It has a great all-around cast. I will say, depending on the type of sports fan you are, specifically if you're like a football fan or specifically a soccer fan for Americans, you will either love or hate this series, because it's not traditional. It's not traditional in the sense that they're doing the come up story or something like that for the main character and says, like, we're gonna go through positions, we're gonna go through teaching you how to do the game. They'll teach you, if you don't know much about soccer, a lot of the basics, but a lot of it is really just enjoying the sport of soccer in a different way and looking at it as a more single person type development than it is more so as a team. But I think the author Manayuki really does it at a great level, because I think only he could write something like this. Obviously the main character Isagi gets the most development, and I think he's going to be a fan favorite when the anime comes out. I see a lot of potential with it in terms of the anime. Hopefully it's animated really good. I don't want to spoil too much, but just know when you read it or when you get to watch it, it's going to be something entirely different if you've never read or seen a sports series before. And the games are going to be incredibly hype. There's going to be a lot to look forward to. It's apparently going to be animated by Bandai Namco Arts, or I believe that's the name of the studio. I've never really seen them do any other work, but really what they're going to have to focus on is a lot of the emotional moments. Definitely the back and forth game, because Blue Lock can be kind of like fast paced when it comes to some of these games. More so than just that, it can go back and forth pretty quickly. So hopefully everything goes well. I think Blue Lock has potential to be one of the biggest anime series to come out of 2020. Now next up is one of my personal favorites, because I'm a big meathead. Now it is the sequel to King and Ashra. King and Ashra, really quick, is a tournament manga. You get a lot of development with cool characters. You get some really interesting backstories. I think that the main character Tokita Oma is pretty underrated, but I see why he's not really talked about that much. A lot of his development is basically from his past and kind of like overcoming it. But I think overall you should read King and Ashra. Some of the best and coolest fights in just the whole like premise of manga. Now, the story of this one is primarily following Koga and Gao. Koga wants to become a Kengan fighter, enter the Kengan Association, and is in the process of learning how to properly fight in their association. While Gao is a little bit more experienced, he's kind of like a assassin, prodigy-ish type. He has to learn a lot himself, but he's he has less of a learning curve in terms of someone like Koga. And that's probably the biggest difference between Ashra and Omega. If you do read Ashra, Ashra is kind of spread out. You get a lot of different characters' perspective on things. For Omega, you're mostly going to be around Koga and Gao. Although I will warn you, there is like a period where Koga is kind of not going to be doing anything because he has to spectate some of the fights that's going on. But other than that, I think he's going to be a good main character, especially going forward when he learns how to fight. And yeah, it's just a fun manga to just pick up, especially if you're coming off of like Ashra. Another great tournament manga that I think is one of the best in all of manga right now. Now, this one I feel like has a lot of potential, especially coming from a manga. I think if it gets animated, it's going to be very, very popular. That is Gachi Akuta. If you are a fan of Soul Eater or Fire Force, you will probably enjoy this a lot, especially since Okubo, the creator of those said series, co-signs Kei Urana, the mangaka of Gachi Akuta. Now, Gachi Akuta is very new. It's only 15 chapters as of this recording. The MC, Rudo, is a foster child of Recto, a father figure for him, and they live in the slums where people in the wealthy towns call them trash or garbage. But after some tragic events, he is blamed for a murder that he had nothing to do with and is thrown into the abyss. Yet this abyss isn't exactly empty, as there are monsters formed from trash that live here. There's also a crew of people who take out said trash monsters that are really cool. With only about 2 volumes worth of content, this series has incredible potential of finding out more about such as the abyss, the Jinkies, which are a part of their power system, and who exactly is the main antagonist for this series, and when will we return to the surface, and how different will things be when we get up there. This series has great artwork, and as for choreography, because there is a lot of action in this already, it's pretty damn good too. I think when you pick this up, you're really going to enjoy it. Amazing character designs. This series has some big potential. I want to watch out for it. Now this next one is Bouncer. It is a delinquent manga, one of my favorite subgenres in the whole medium, and the manga centers around Shishido. He's a 19-year-old whose blunt personality has cost him 26 part-time jobs. The boy is struggling, but one night he ran into a group of muscular bodyguards who protect the streets at night, and members of a private security firm known as Tokyo Fist, which ends up changing his life. From there on, his life is changed as he joins the security. He's basically learning to become a badass. This is another cool delinquent manga that can get pretty dark, from the creator of Out. If you want to get into the gritty delinquent manga subgenre, I recommend starting with this. It has great action and a story that gets way more interesting as organizations are introduced and more dangerous characters are entered into the fray. Like I said, the story is pretty simple from the beginning, but it gets into something pretty cool as you get further into the chapters. I think it's a pretty raw manga, I'll just say the least. Last one on this list is a fun one. It's Toga and Anki. I have a video of this series back when it had like 40 chapters. You can check that out if you want, although warning, it ain't my best work. But this series doesn't have a groundbreaking story, but it does have incredible artwork, a good power system, pretty cool characters that practically develop and grow about every single arc. And the premise of the story is Onis versus Momotarus. Onis are humans with basically monster blood in them. Their powers and abilities come from this blood, and these abilities are almost limitless. You can be from a sensory type fighter where you can detect people like an X-ray, or you can be an all-out beast like our main character Shiki, who spawns various guns of blood to take out enemies, with the backside of them potentially going berserk and killing a bunch of people. Then there's Momotaro, who want to kill the Oni because of various reasons, and their powers are created from bacteria, and just like the Oni, they can have various abilities without the berserker. Although Momotaro will have an incredibly large amount of firepower, they just have a bigger risk of losing control of it. Now the potential of the story right now is kind of growing, but if you just want a fun shonen action series with a lot of cool characters, and I might as well touch on some of these characters. The main character Shiki, his backstory is pretty typical, but this backstory doesn't make him. His actions throughout the series and learning his abilities and becoming more accepting of his partner / classmates. Yes, there is a school factor in this, but it's not really used all that much. And then we have Jin, who off character design alone is going to be a fan favorite when this gets animated, because I believe the series is selling pretty damn well. Then there is Akari. He's kind of becoming my favorite because of not only his ability essentially becoming a chimera that gets stronger through hatred, but his character direction is more aggressive compared to everyone else's. By the way, this big three in Togen actually has some serious potential, and Mudano is a popular character just waiting to happen. Not only is he OP, but his attacks have some of the best art in the series. If you take Aizawa from MHA's personality and put it in a Gojo-like role from JJK, you basically have Mudano. All of my favorites of 2022, they're still ongoing and at least a year or two older. Some a little bit older, but they're still going. Hopefully they stay at decent quality for me. I know some of them are definitely going to keep getting better and better. But let me know in the comment section down below if you've actually read some of these, or did I actually kind of interest you to read some of them. And of course, leave a like and subscribe. We do a lot of content over here, specifically JJK, but I like to mix in some other kind of nuanced anime and manga stuff in here as well. So I'll holler at y'all in the next one. Peace.